Hey, I'm Shad Millman on the latest Behind the Bets podcast. Listen to baseball analyst Joe Pita talk about pitching in a way that's unlike anything you've ever heard before.
Free agency heating up. Good day, everybody. Welcome into First Takes. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I am Molly Karam alongside Will Kane, Kate Fagan, George Sedano from the Will and Kate Show and the George and Izzy Show. How are we doing, guys?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Doing so good.
It's good. It's good.
It's good. Just good?
It's great. This is a big day.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk about this big day. Let's get right into it and do what we do. So one of the biggest names on the market this offseason, certainly Kevin Durant. Our Mark Stein is reporting that Durant is the Warriors' top target in free agency. Will, would you be okay if he left the Thunder to go to Golden State?
I would not be okay with it. That's going to come as no surprise to you two. I think I have made you both well aware of where I stand on people joining super teams to win NBA championships. But let me add one little note. It depends on why Durant leaves Oklahoma City. If he leaves Oklahoma City to go to Golden State to win championships, I have a huge problem with it. If he leaves because he wants to play with some buddies and he's good friends with somebody on the Warriors, he and Klay Thompson hang out in the offseason, and he and Russell Westbrook just aren't clicking, that changes the equation. But the suggestion is he wants to go to Golden State to find a better place to win, and that I would have a problem with. And I think recent history, very recent history, supports me. Because here's why I would have a problem with it. Not all championships are built the same way. Not all championships are worth the same thing. They not all have the same value. LeBron James has illustrated within the past 5 days that one championship can be worth more than two. One championship in Cleveland for LeBron James is of more worth to his legacy, to his career, to the cities he played for, than two in Miami. I don't want George to take this too personally. I know Miami is close and dear to you.
It's all right.
But I think what we saw, George, in the last couple days is that one championship built in a city where you have an emotional tie, built in a city that loves you from birth, that you have a long-term relationship with, that you built with less of a supporting cast, not a group of superstar players, is of much greater value than him choosing to go to Miami and win two. So Kevin Durant's path needs to be the following LeBron James's Cavaliers title. And that would be winning one with Oklahoma City. If he chooses to go to Golden State, he's following LeBron's Miami path. And that's just quite simply not as good.
Well, it made it sound like you just said, and I don't feel like at the time the consensus was this way, that you made it seem like LeBron going back to Cleveland, he was going to a lesser team, when everybody made it feel like, oh, he was just kind of getting a younger version of what he had in Miami. So I don't buy that for 1 second.
You don't buy that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, or at that time,
listen,
Andrew Wiggins, are less of a version than Dwayne Wade and
Yes, I did, but that was not the consensus here. Not at all. Okay, I was definitely in the minority when I was talking about that kind of stuff. So I would say in general, most people wouldn't agree with you there. And again, here's the reality of this situation. In the NBA, you are either known as a champion or you're not. And Kevin Durant doesn't want to be Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, who we all love, best thing on television in sports right now. But he doesn't want to be those guys. He wants to be remembered as one of the greats because he's already one of the greats of his era. And people don't remember that Clyde Drexler latched on to the Houston Rockets. They just remember that he won a championship, okay? And he still won at a time where he was a contributor. Kevin Durant is the same age as the stars at Golden State. They're all about 27 years old, and you're talking about a guy who is this close to beating them, right? So what happens is he realizes, I need to win a championship for my legacy. And the LeBron thing, to go back to that for 1 second, one championship in Cleveland is monstrous. No one's going to deny that. But really, it's about 3 championships. Because we were about to label him the worst MVP to win championships because he would have been 2-5 in the NBA Finals. He would have been worse. He had a worse record than Wilt Chamberlain at that point, who was 2-4, equal with LeBron going into this. So it's really not necessarily the one, Will. It's about the 3 and where he ranks because not very many guys have 3. But back to Durant for a second. Again, look at how destructive Oklahoma City was with Durant at the 4. You're talking about a team that wants to shoot the ball from 3. Who's better at the 4 than Kevin Durant if that's your game plan? With the Warriors and their ball movement, that's not what Kevin Durant is used to. Kevin Durant is used to hero ball, ISO ball, and that's what did them in the end against the Golden State Warriors, because they went away from what was working, which was moving the ball. At Golden State, that's not going to happen if Kevin Durant's at the 4. He's going to capitalize, win, and create a dynasty if he goes there.
I'm going to focus on my radio partner here, Will Kane. The fundamental flaw in your argument about LeBron staying in Cleveland, winning a title equals KD staying in Oklahoma City and winning a title, it's a false equivalency, because KD was not born and raised in Oklahoma City.
D.C. Should he go to the Wizards?
He was born and raised in D.C. And that's part of the reason why this title with Cleveland has been elevated to the status that we've seen it over the last few days. It's not just about LeBron winning a title with the team he was drafted into. It's about LeBron winning a title for his hometown and that kind of loyalty that he went back to. That's what's elevating it past just, oh, he stuck around on that same team for so many years. KD, as George said, KD has already been in Oklahoma City since 2007. He has to now ask himself, since he knows how that organization works and what they have there, whether or not he can win a title there. And if he can't win a title there, well, then no titles is certainly going to be less viewed well by the NBA community afterward than any title at all with the Golden State Warriors.
Well, and this notion that you want to, that if he goes to a championship team, you think less of him as opposed to playing with his buddies. Isn't everybody's goal in any walk of life to be the best at what you could possibly be? That just sounds ridiculous, Will.
I don't know why you're separating it to, if he plays with his friends, I'm cool with that.
Right.
It's because of what his motivation would be. If it's to get a cheap title, it's less. Now, give me some.
So LeBron did both. He went with his friends and won championships. So why is that bad?
I'm playing zone here. You guys are. It's 2-on-1. So let me rebut both of you now. Okay. Give me a tad bit of room. First of all, you know what a remora fish is? Mm-hmm. Remora fish is a little fish that swims underneath a shark and eats up the scraps of what the shark leaves behind. Clyde Drexler, with all due respect to Clyde Drexler, no one thinks of him as a champion. No one thinks of him as a Houston Rockets champion. You know what they think, George? They think Hakeem Olajuwon's championship. Now, that's the risk that Durant runs. He goes to Golden State, he becomes the remora fish. Drexler is Hakeem's remora fish. He becomes Curry's remora fish. Now, I'll be honest, I think if he goes to Golden State, he probably becomes 1A pretty quick, and Steph becomes 1B. But there will be those that diminish what he does. They'll say, he signed on to Curry's championship team. He signed on to Curry's legacy because Curry already won one. He will be seen as the remora fish, and that will lessen his legacy. Hold on, I haven't even got to your arguments yet. And here, to your argument,
you can't be a remora fish or whatever.
Let me respond to both of you.
You can't be if you're Kevin Durant and you are option 1A. That completely negates what you just said.
No, I'm saying not everybody is as rational as the three of us sitting at this table.
If you're picking up the scraps off of the shark, then you're not the 1A.
Right.
You're like 4D.
Right. But what we're talking about when you talk about legacy, Kate, is you're talking about subjectivity, the way people view you. I will view him as 1A. There will be many who will not, who will view him as the remora. Hold on, because I've got two people I'm fighting with here. You on the LeBron comparison.
Two remora fish.
You're right.
You're remora fish and he's the shark.
Right, clearly he thinks he's the shark.
I'm going to let that sit for a minute because I liked it.
Yeah, marinate on that.
Regarding whether or not the comparison to LeBron is a false equivalency, you're right. LeBron's ties to Northeastern Ohio are deeper, much deeper than Kevin Durant to Oklahoma City. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. And if Kevin Durant wins titles, and by the way, we have valued legacy and number of championships to such a degree that now we diminish, we allow people to sign up for easy championships. The truth is the value of the title is seen as something that has survived through the ups and downs and earned through the highs and lows. That's why LeBron's one in Cleveland is worth more than the two in Miami. Yes, Kevin Durant was drafted by Oklahoma City. So was Kobe in Los Angeles. So was Dirk in Dallas. So was Tim Duncan in San Antonio. And those 20 years for Dirk and Tim Duncan soon approaching in one city increase the depth of your relationship. That's what Kevin Durant has with Oklahoma City. He would never have it in Golden State, and that increases any potential championship he would get with that town.
Okay, listen. Here's the reality of this, and this is where your argument is flawed, trying to predict the future and how people are going to react to Kevin Durant if he wins championships at Golden State. When LeBron went to Miami, it was, oh, he's latching on to Dwayne Wade because Dwayne Wade's won championships. He's a finals MVP. And then who was the finals MVP for those 2 championships in Miami? It was LeBron. And then the narrative flips. It's like, oh, LeBron carried those guys. Of course he's got to leave to go to Cleveland. So you're telling me that Kevin Durant can't go to Golden State and be the guy, the difference maker that turned them from a team that won 1 championship to a team that became a dynasty and won several championships? That narrative can flip easily. We saw LeBron do it.
Let me ask you a very simple question. Would it be easier for Kevin Durant to win a title in Golden State or Oklahoma City?
We have no clue. We just watched.
We don't know what the rest of the league is going to look like.
We just watched those 2 teams play, and they basically played to a stalemate.
But Kevin Durant would be switching sides. They're not talking about the same equation.
Right, but you're asking.
So Kevin Durant, easier championship, question, though? Golden State or Oklahoma City? Easier championship.
Well, it depends on who's on LeBron's team.
You're avoiding it because you know the answer's obvious.
No, it's not.
Not if
Golden
LeBron.
State.
Not if
Where's LeBron playing, and who's he playing with? Like, that to me is the question.
You guys have pulled the ripcord on your argument. You know it's easier.
How is it the ripcord? Because we're sitting here and we're actually being rational about it, that we don't know what the rest of the NBA is going to look like?
You don't know that it would be easier for Kevin Durant to win a championship with Golden State than Oklahoma City?
More than likely, it would be, yes. More than likely.
That, in and of itself, diminishes the accomplishment.
But you're being an absolutist.
Versus Oklahoma City.
You're being an absolutist, though. Because you're making it seem like, oh, it's a guarantee. Now, I do think he's going to win multiple championships if he goes to Golden State, but it's not a given he's going to win one right away.
LeBron didn't win one. I'm not being absolute. I said more likely.
Will, if you said that you'd be cool if he went to Golden State because he wanted to play with his friends, what if that's his motivation to go there? You're cool with it, and then he happens to win some titles.
Like
now,
LeBron.
Are you frowning upon the titles, even though you've already said you're okay with him?
I said at the very beginning, Kate, right? This is about your motivation. And if your motivation is to find your easiest path to a championship, then I think less of that path. If you want to play with your friends, and yes, you do win a championship as a byproduct, I get that. When LeBron went to Miami, the truth is there was part of him that just wanted to play with his buddies, wanted to play with Wade, wanted to play with Bosh. There was another part of him was signing up, yes, for easy championships. But I haven't heard anything about Durant having long-term good relationships, best buddies with Thompson and Curry and anyone else there. I haven't heard that's his motivation. I heard easy championship.
We talk all the time about where guys are drafted into. So you got guys drafted into Golden State. Now they're in a great situation where they can win titles. Kevin Durant is drafted into a situation that makes it so much harder and puts him in a position where if he decides to leave, now we diminish whatever he does accomplish. But we're never going to diminish Steph Curry for having gotten drafted into the Golden State equation.
I don't deny the right. We're asking about what my reaction.
And you shouldn't demean him if he wants to leave as a free agent. Like, people shouldn't have done that with LeBron. Now, we can argue about the decision and the way he went about it, but the reality was, you're a free agent. You can leave, right? We've all been free agents in one shape or form, right? Where we've been in our careers, and you've decided to move on somewhere else. You came here, right? Because ESPN is the worldwide leader. So did you, so did I, so did she. What's the difference?
I'm not talking about right. I'm talking about the way we view you.
All right.
Okay.
Case closed for right now. Coming out of the gate, firing. Ladies
I'm afraid it's not.
What happens when Will
It's not about to slow down, I don't think, either.
They said you lost a step. Wasn't explosive as once was. The best days was in the real view. Questioned your drive, your leadership, your commitment. You don't have killer instinct. Going back home is the worst mistake of your career. You got the coach fired. Players traded. Won't work between him and Kyrie. Him and Kev won't work. Love your teammates too much. There's no way he can deliver a championship in his hometown, etc., etc., etc. But guess what, Sonny? That's none of my business. Hashtag strive for greatness. Hashtag this one is for the land. Hashtag put some respect in my name. Ha ha ha. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That is not Morgan Freeman. That is Frank Caliendo reading LeBron's Instagram post to his critics. Kate, are you okay with LeBron writing this?
No, I'm more than okay.
Oh.
Okay.
I love it. Look at Will. He's
Will thought he had an ally for a second.
You love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
For one, my main reason is having covered the NBA for a number of years, what I actually find to be the least humble behavior of an NBA player is to make it seem as if they don't consume anything about them. That they are above actually even absorbing any of the media or the discussion around them. And that would happen all the time. I don't read any of that. I don't hear any of that. It's like, well, you're human. Every single human absorbs the conversation going on around them, isn't immune to actually feeling that. I liked that about this post from LeBron. He's actually admitting that he does absorb a lot of this. He does understand what's going on around him. He's not saying, oh, I didn't hear any of it. Because I'm LeBron James, I'm the king, I'm so high up that I don't even have to deal with that in any respect. So I like that part of it. I also like the part of it that he's just still being LeBron. And we were kind of getting to this very scary place where we were all cool with LeBron. We all liked LeBron. We all recognized his legacy. Now he puts up this tweet, which is something he's done his entire career, which is take the high road 92% of the time, and then every once in a while acknowledge that he hears what's going down in the mud. And he's acknowledging that for us. If he didn't do that, he would no longer be LeBron. Because that's how LeBron has always operated. Almost every media availability he has, he rises above. Which I think is probably pretty hard considering how much he has to rise above and how much vitriol he gets. So for those two reasons, one, I think it's actually the humble move. More humble than a lot of other moves that athletes make where they're like, man, I don't even hear that stuff. I don't get that. Number two, he's still being LeBron. And I'm cool with that because for some people, he is now still the villain.
To the victor goes the spoils, man. Like, that's just the reality of it. You get to write the history. When you win, you get to write the history. You get to, and look, you can hate it, and maybe he should have added one more hashtag humble brag. I don't know. But ultimately, the way I look at it is this. I've always been okay with the guys who are vocal, the guys who say what's on their mind. I'd rather that 100 times out of 100, whether I like what's coming out of their mouth or not, than the guy who's going to give me the prepackaged nonsense. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, to me, I agree with Kate wholeheartedly. I don't want to hear stuff out of guys' mouth that I know is a lie. Okay? Because plenty of us have been around LeBron in one way, shape, or form, covered games or whatnot, and we know a lot of these guys, even though they don't admit it, they are. As Kate said, they're human. They know exactly what's being said, whether it's on sports talk radio, television, whatnot. I remember one time I interviewed LeBron when I was doing local radio in Miami, and I asked him about Skip giving him all sorts of grief on this show years ago. And he basically told me, Skip's like my Howard Cosell. So he knows what's going on. So you know what? If he's willing to vent and let it all out, have at it. That's a human reaction, and I'm okay with it.
I'm not okay with it.
What?
Now, let me lay just a little bit of runway.
Shocking, by the way.
The reason I'm not okay with this is I think it cheapens LeBron James. And that's a shame. He doesn't need to be cheap. He doesn't need to be cheapened. On our show, Will and Kate, on our radio show, you know very well that I have been a LeBron James defender. I think he's been treated unfairly. I think it's a stupid argument about who's the best player in the NBA. I think he clearly is. I think, as we'll talk about later, he's an all-time great. I think LeBron James's greatness has consistently been diminished, never more so than in the past year or two. All that being said, this is something he didn't need to do. It cheapened him. Number one, because actions speak louder than words. He had already said all this with what he did on the floor in the finals. He led teams in both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. All of that said to every critic, almost every critic, that he is clearly far and away someone who has proven himself, who has answered every critic, who has an argument, and he didn't need to put cheap words to it. And then I'll tell you, secondly, another reason it cheapens him, and I don't care if this seems petty, but I think it's the truth. Man, you gotta get your grammar straight. You put a paragraph out. You laugh, George, but let me ask you a question.
Spell check,
Okay,
man,
that I don't have an issue with. I was with you until that.
I
You have
mean,
to get
really?
a grammar
I mean, you should be hashtag Team Petty,
It's
like straight up.
2016.
First of all, not only you hashtag Team Petty, second of all, you just don't like fun, man. You don't like KD going to the Warriors, this crazy open style. You don't like LeBron just kind of beating his chest for once.
You lost me with the
Listen,
grammar.
man.
I'll just go back to the
Well, to be all due
50s where we
respect-
just
all
kept
due
stuff
respect,
inside.
I haven't
And
made
our
my
athletes
argument
didn't say
yet.
anything
Well,
out loud.
let's
With all due
Will
respect to
finish.
whether or not you agree or disagree, which you might in a minute.
Okay, finish.
Let me make
Go
my
ahead.
argument.
Yep.
When you send an email to John Skipper, if you do that, or you send an email to your immediate superior, your boss, anyone that you hope will judge you positively or negatively, you look it over a little bit. You check and see if you got, I don't know, half a dozen mistakes, basic grammatical mistakes, random capitalization, misspellings.
Well,
Do you not do it? Do you not do it?
Are his bosses?
This isn't John Wildhack. For John Wildhack, yes.
For a man who is so image conscious, I don't think we disagree on that, LeBron James, who is so image conscious, it just, again, cheapens him. To put something embarrassing out, I think it's embarrassing the way it was presented.
It makes me feel like he's like on his phone, on the plane, just
emotional, fired up,
hyped up.
Let's go.
He's like, this is what I would have said to all of you if you were standing in front of me.
He didn't need to get on Instagram and type out a misspelled paragraph of proclamations on his iPhone when he just did what he did in the finals. The whole argument is every aspect of this, from its conception to its execution in his misspellings and iPhone Instagram post, cheapens him.
I was solely addressing
He's the ambassador.
The petty grammar argument.
No, I mean, this is just
because
next level nonsense is what it is. I mean, no offense, Will. Like, sorry. I feel like incredulous, right? Like, I don't even know how to respond to something like that.
I feel pretty confidently, George. You have children?
I do.
I feel pretty confident you'd tell them to clean it up.
You know what I would do?
Your
first of all, we're talking about a child
who just won the NBA title. You'd be like,
I mean, I don't even know if you can make.
I'd be like, what are you buying?
It's not real view. It's rear view, LeBron.
Yeah.
That's one of half a dozen.
But that's obviously not a mistake that he doesn't understand it's rear view. He's just passionate in the moment. Why are you not okay with that?
Because that's
part
one of a
who
dozen.
he is.
I don't think they're all random, passionate in the moments mistakes.
I didn't think this discussion was going to go there. Kudos to you.
I do agree, though. Will, I do agree with your initial point, though, that it is unnecessary, and in a sense, it cheapens it. He doesn't need to say he went out there, he won the chip. If he wants to, go for it. But the grammar, I didn't care.
I'll tell you this. You may all think it's petty, but I have a pretty strong sense that every one of you, all three of you, and most watching at home, wouldn't do the same thing. You'd look it over. You'd clean it up. And I think in the end, that wins my argument.
No, I think there's been plenty of times I've tweeted something and I realize there's a mistake later. Maybe I'll delete it, maybe not.
I love Will, though. I think that
cares?
wins my argument. I think I won the argument.
I mean, who?
I know how you'd act down deep. I know how you
By
act.
the way, I was okay with him. When he lost to the Mavericks, he made that comment. Remember where he said,
I'll still wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll wake up tomorrow and have my life, and you got to wake up. I was cool with that too. Okay, I'm okay with guys saying what they mean. And in this case, whether it's a misspelling or not, he said what he meant, and that's all that matters.
We've gotten to this place. You guys have made this argument twice today. Le Bertard makes this on a daily basis, that authenticity is the end's justification. I like authenticity. It's necessary. I want to see real. But that being said, it's not the end of the story. After authentic, we need to see who you authentically are. If you're authentically, and I'm not talking about LeBron James here, if you're authentically an unpleasant person, an unlikable person, then we can judge you on that. The fact that you were authentic on the way to showing us that doesn't justify it. All it is necessary but not sufficient. Get it? Be authentic. And then be good.
I think he was being authentic, is what you were saying.
Yes, but he has to be good,
but he also wasn't necessarily unpleasant.
Right, well, what, the execution of a tweet or whatever that was?
A paragraph. It wasn't a 140-character tweet.
Who saw that as unpleasant?
No, I said I wasn't talking about LeBron there. I'm talking about his authenticity of showing his passion.
You can't just say you're not talking about LeBron when we are talking about this.
On the pleasant aspect. I don't think he put his best foot forward. He was authentic, and then also put your best foot forward. You can do both.
You can do both, but to claim, like, among people who write or do other things for a living that involve the language, yes, of course that would be paramount to us. Yeah. Because that's part of our livelihood.
I'm actually shocked. Follow me on social media because you'll be very disappointed.
I'm actually shocked that you're so dismissive of it because I think none of your behavior actually reflects your arguments.
Okay, well, speaking of Twitter.
Which means I think higher of you than maybe you do.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast. Today on the show, Fieldgate, Stephon Yabel and myself do a deep dive on the wide receiver position for 2016. What should your strategy be? So much to listen to. Just go to the ESPN app, click on the Listen tab, and check out Fantasy Focus Football.
Didn't end in a good way because you have to finish this if you have a historic season. I think the only other thing that's comparable is what happened with the Patriots. I think when you were so dominant during the regular season, and then you didn't win the big one. So I think they'd be better. Because it's a disappointment. It is so depressing when you lose in the finals. So it's going to hurt for a while, but I don't think it has anything to do with the 73 wins. I think it has everything to do with not winning the championship.
So that was Charles Barkley on Mike and Mike saying that the Warriors' collapse reminded him of those 2007 Patriots. George, I want to start with you. Will history look more favorably on the Warriors or the Patriots?
All right, first of all, this is a really difficult question. I think we're basically splitting hairs here with these two teams because of the way it all went down. It is the closest comparison if you're looking at the two different sports. You have these two teams. But I did a little digging, a little research on this because I kind of remember the Patriots being a monster favorite in that Super Bowl. And I look back, they were a 14-point favorite. The Giants were plus 475 if you wanted to bet on them on the money line. Now, the Cavs in this series, right before the series started, plus 165. So that's a pretty big difference there from a Vegas perspective. And I feel like those guys, they know a lot more than us. There's a reason they build all those nice fancy hotels out there because they tend to take all our money and they know these things more so than we do. A couple of other things that kind of came to mind. The Cavs, by the way, were a bigger underdog last year as opposed to this year. They were closer to being a favorite, I guess, this season than they were in the previous year. The other part of this, the Warriors, for all intents and purposes, still have the record of 73 wins, whereas the Patriots technically are the second team in the history of the NFL to go undefeated in a regular season. The Miami Dolphins, granted a 14-game season, but in essence, that kind of splits it for me, slight lean towards the Warriors there.
For me, I think history looks more favorably upon the Patriots. And I think it's a math equation. I think the math equation is how great is your accomplishment, the regular season accomplishment, minus how deflating, how diminishing is your playoff loss. Mm-hmm. So I think the Warriors' regular season accomplishment is greater. Beating the Bulls' 72-win season, winning 73 games, is a slightly greater accomplishment than the Patriots going 16-0, because the Dolphins in 72 had done it once before. Because there's been 6 teams go 15-1. But listen, it's horseshoes and hand grenades. That's almost isn't there.
Right.
So there's a big difference between 15-1 and 16-0. That being said, the accomplishment for the Warriors is slightly greater. But so is the playoff loss. So is the diminishing factor of the playoff loss. I mean, first of all, they were on their heels against Oklahoma City. And then to allow a historic comeback against the Cavaliers, allowing them to come back from 3-1 wasn't a fluke. Now, the Patriots got beat by a David Tyree helmet catch. It's first of all a sport where one game can determine the outcome, not a 7-game series. Already more ripe for a fluke. And you layer on top of that a helmet catch. It's what did away with this perfect season. It's what ultimately knocked the Patriots off of that stand. I think that is less of a diminishing factor than giving up a historic comeback to the Cavaliers. So my math equation takes what the Warriors accomplished and diminishes it much more by letting those Cavs come back. So I think we look more favorably upon the Patriots.
I think we're going to look more favorably upon the Warriors. And you start with the fact that the NBA playoffs are so long that it's less fluky. There are 7-game series, therefore you think at the end you do get your champion, which would seem counterintuitive to my argument, except when you add in then how important the luck of injuries becomes. I think, although it's an unsexy argument to point out that the Golden State Warriors dealt with the kind of injuries that are debilitating to win an NBA championship, that is a huge factor, I think, in how history will look at the Golden State Warriors. I mean, if you take the simple stat that over the last, I think it's about 30 years, only 2 NBA champions have had rotational players miss any significant time, Tony Kukoc and Chris Bosh with the Miami Heat, you see how being healthy impacts everything. And now you look at the Warriors, you look at their numbers after Steph hurt his knee. Before, he was shooting something like 48% from 3, 56% from the field, and they were winning over 90% of their playoff games. After it, he's shooting like 39% from 3, 40, I think it's 6% from the field, and they're winning something like 58% of their games. You can't possibly think that those two things are unrelated. And so nobody wants to talk in the NBA about how injuries really do go a long way in determining an NBA championship and how much luck has to play in that. But that's a huge factor. Even Dwayne Wade, when they were losing in the NBA playoffs and Goran Dragic was upset, said to him, and I think this was in a Pablo Torre article, hey, this is about health at this point in the year, as much as it is about talent. And I think the farther away we get from the Warriors season, I think we're going to realize some of the things they were dealing with in the playoffs that led ultimately to losing in Game 7 in the last minutes of the NBA Finals.
I'll add to Kate's point, which is, and look, granted, we always remember the champion, right? No matter what, we remember the champion. But there are certain series we remember footnotes. We remember Isaiah Thomas busting his ankle, right, and then losing that series. We remember Magic Johnson in a previous series being hurt and losing. So I think that there are moments that we do remember that stuff. With that said, Tom Brady did get hurt in the AFC title game, not to the extent that Steph got hurt, but he did get dinged up. He had an ankle injury and then played in the Super Bowl after that. But I agree with you your overall premise, which is injuries play a factor, and they do become footnotes. We do remember them as time goes by.
And I think we're asking this very specific question. Which one will history look more favorably upon? I agree. The footnote is the why. Why did you lose? And I think history will remember the helmet catch much more than Steph's knee or ankle that he ultimately came back from and played an entire series. It will remember that, to your point, fluke much more than a historic comeback, and it will raise the Patriots because it was a fluke.
Yeah, I think that the common person who doesn't follow sports, as intensely as maybe we do will remember the David Tyree catch. But really, and you're a Giants fan, right? Yeah. So you'll remember Michael Strahan and those boys put it on Tom Brady. That was really the reason. That's what I'm going to remember.
The New York Giants won the Super Bowl.
That's really the reason, though, that they won.
Fan, right?
Yeah.
I have that catch framed in my house.
You're a fan.
So I'll stay out of the conversation. We'll leave it at that.
Just dismissing that Super Bowl win as purely based on a fluke.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Strahan and those guys put Brady on flush.
Send the two Giants fans.
Well, I'm not a Giants fan.
These two.
Yeah.
Our next guests are ready to take center stage after boxing the shadows of Floyd Mayweather for many years. Mayweather was the undisputed welterweight champion. After his retirement, the titles went in many different places. 5 different guys currently hold the 5 titles that Floyd held. One of those is Keith Thurman, who is the WBA welterweight champion, and he will put the title on the line against Shawn Porter on Saturday night on Showtime on CBS from the Barclays Center. So they will be in the ring together, but right now they are at the desk. Thank you guys so much for being here. Keith Thurman, Shawn Porter, we appreciate it.
Thanks for having
you guys are looking clean.
Thank you.
I like it. All right, so let's get into it here. We just saw, obviously, Floyd's dominance. He's retired now, opening up the welterweight division. What is it going to take, I want to get both of your thoughts, to step out of Floyd's shadow?
Obviously, it's going to take a terrific performance. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think people in general are very antsy and they want to rush and fill the gap. I do think it's going to take time, but it's going to take great fights like this fight Saturday night on CBS. The platform, the networks that we're working with, boxing in itself is taking a new shift, and it's obvious to see that there's a rise of a new generation. And me and Shawn, we come to fight, we come to perform, and we come to entertain.
That starts Saturday night. But that being said, this was supposed to take place in March. Now, Shawn, I read you said the fight delay has allowed you to watch more tape, to look at Keith more, to find more mistakes. What mistakes did you find?
That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to take that time and use it wisely, right?
But what did you find?
I found that, he can be hit. It's all about throwing the right punches at the right time. Not being caught off balance and being patient, So those are the few things that we worked on, not to give up too much. But, trust me, Saturday night, CBS primetime, it will be electric.
Keith, how's it going to go? How's this fight going to go down?
I mean, you're going to be looking at and watching 2 terrific athletes, He's a friend of mine, but, I'm going to be giving it my all. He's going to be giving it his all. It's going to be like race cars, hitting the pedal to the floor, 100%, Our careers are on the line. I'm going to box smart. I'm going to do what I do best, man. My original trainer, Ben Getty, who trained me from the age of 7 to the age of 20 when he passed away, he always said, smart fighters win, dumb fighters lose. And, I'm strong, I'm fast, but it's always about being intelligent.
But how will you win, Keith? How will you win?
With these 2 hands right here, baby.
Is he going down?
We've already predicted the knockout. The nickname is one time, all the time, KOs for life. I've hurt many people before.
For life. I like that.
KOs for life. I've hurt many men before, and we don't see Shawn as anything else besides another stepping stone.
Well, it's been asked, are the levels so high that this is going to be kind of a back and forth fight, you two swinging and missing each other because the levels are so high? And I haven't really seen that in my head. In my mind, I've seen myself be able to make him miss and be able to connect with when I want to connect. I've seen myself knocking him out. I've seen myself making him quit. I know he's not a quitter, and I know he's got a lot of heart, and he's driven too, So this is definitely both of us. I'm 28, he's 27. We're at the prime of our career, and that's why we waited so long to put this fight together. This fight had to happen on Saturday night, and it's going to happen. I'm excited.
One thing before we let you guys go, you said there's been a shift in boxing. What is it? What's the state of boxing right now?
Well, for me, I'd say the shift is one, networks, right? HBO and Showtime, you know, with what happened last year, I fought on NBC. I premiered for ESPN, and we had Fox earlier this year. We have Bounce, we have Spike. Boxing is trying to come back for the American public to see. And to me, that's part of the new shift, along with the new up-and-coming young talent.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the greatest part about what we're doing right now is we're coming into another era where boxing is coming back to network television and people are able to see it whenever they want to see it. And on top of that, you have a new reign coming where we are hungry, we are young, we love what we do, and we're exciting. You know, we're getting out of that era where, you know, you take fights for certain fights for money. It's not about for us.
One thing, we only have time for one more, I think, but you guys have known each other for 10 years. I just asked you before we sat down how long you've been hanging out. You've done a couple press tours. You're very friendly with each other right here, right now. When does that change?
I didn't add it up like that. 10 years. I didn't add it up like that.
And you're traveling around right now, sitting at a table together. When does the attitude change?
It probably changes after the weigh-in for me. After the weigh-in, it becomes all business. And it's been all business the whole way. But I think after the weigh-in and we face off, that's when I really just get going. That's when it starts for me.
When the gloves are on and the lights are there and we're in the ring, you know, I mean, these are two great men right here, but one has to be better than the other. And we'll find out Saturday night.
The 5 greatest players, in my opinion, are Michael, Oscar Robertson, Bill Russell, Kareem, and Wilt. I had Kobe at 6. I got Tim Duncan at 7. And then you got LeBron, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Magic, and Bird. They're in that group, and you put them where you want to. But I'm not just going to automatically put LeBron past Kobe as far as this generation, as far as Kobe and Tim Duncan. Those guys got 5 world championships. LeBron has 3, which is amazing. But I don't live in that moment. I'm not going to just say, wait a minute, I'm going to move him past Kobe and Tim Duncan now. I mean, I'm just not going to do that.
Charles Barkley doesn't seem impressed with LeBron winning his 3rd title and becoming the first player to lead all players on both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in any playoff series of any length. Barkley doesn't even include LeBron in his top 7 players of all time. Kate, let's start with you. Where do you rank the king?
I have him at number 2 on my list. So I have Jordan number 1, LeBron number 2, Magic number 3, Kareem number 4, and then Kobe number 5. And if we focus on number 2, why I have LeBron at number 2, it's twofold. One, because there's more leash left for him. He has more career left. So you would think, given the way the Cavs look right now and the way the NBA looks, it's very likely he's going to take that 3, not very likely, it's very possible that he's going to take that 3 title total to even higher. And also at age 31, Michael Jordan at this time had 3 titles and 3 MVPs. Same age, LeBron has 3 titles and 4 MVPs. Sometimes we lose sight as we wrap ourselves in the legacy of Michael Jordan that nobody ever wants to diminish, that so much came later in his career, and LeBron does have more time to add to that. So this win in Cleveland vaulted him from I think I had him maybe 4 or 5 before it, up to number 2. And the other part of that goes down to moments. And this moment that he just delivered to the NBA and to NBA fans rivals pretty much any moment in terms of a Game 7 finals and the story that we told ourselves leading up to it. And obviously Michael Jordan coming back from taking the year off, and those are all amazing moments. That's why he's still number 1. But this LeBron moment and the story of LeBron returning to Cleveland, to me, is going to become more and more magical the farther we get away from it.
I've got Jordan 1, Kareem 2, LeBron 3, Magic 4, Tim Duncan at 5. Now, I was part of the crew that did the ESPN NBA all-time rank, and at the time I had LeBron at 5, and I vaulted him up. I actually had him at 4 just the other day, and then I did the NBA Lockdown podcast with Amin El Hassan and Israel Gutierrez, and they kind of swayed me a little bit because it was a toss-up between Magic and LeBron, and you know what? I put LeBron ahead of him, and this is the reason why. And it's still the argument that I feel like tends to be unfair towards LeBron when we do the whole Michael Jordan thing. And I agree with you. His story isn't written yet, and we have to keep that in account here, okay? But Jordan, we only tend to recall the 6 years he won the championship. We don't recall the other 7 years he didn't even get there. Whereas LeBron gets judged on his entire body of work. And LeBron has played with probably worse teammates throughout his entirety of his career than pretty much every other guy on this list.
Right.
Okay? Outside of the 2 years he played with Wade and Bosh, who were Hall of Famers. I mean, Kyrie could be, but still way too early to know that. Like, we don't know that to be the case. So that, to me, puts LeBron third and still can climb, I think, from his position at 3 for me.
Our lists aren't that different. Here's my list quickly. It's Michael Jordan 1, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar number 2, Bill Russell number 3, LeBron James number 4, and Tim Duncan at number 5. I like Charles's instinct not to be a prisoner of the moment. At the same time, I agree with you, Kate. LeBron, compared right now, should be compared to Jordan mid-career, not Jordan's full body of work. You have to do that after LeBron's full body of work is submitted. But that being said, you can't give LeBron credit for things he hasn't done yet either. You only can have the evidence on the table to put him on this list. I think he'll move up for me. He'll move up from number 4. I think he will win more titles, but he hasn't yet. And until he does, he's got to go higher. I want to say, you know, we had a huge debate earlier about Kevin Durant, and I ultimately agree with what both of you said, but I actually think it supports my view of Kevin Durant, ultimately, and that is this. We overvalue championships. I just did it. Oscar Robertson's not on my list because he has, what is it, 1 championship?
He's got 11.
Oscar Robertson?
Oh, I'm sorry, Oscar Robertson. I think you said Bill Russell was on your list. Sorry, Oscar Robertson.
Oscar Robertson's not on my list because he has 1 championship.
Right.
Is that fair? I think we probably overvalue the number of championships in a legacy because I look at LeBron's body of work and the fact that he's been to 7 finals is a massive weight of evidence. So just getting there, getting teams that aren't, I think I agree with you, aren't as great, don't have as huge a supporting cast, should be given credit. And that's ultimately, by the way, why I think Kevin Durant could benefit more from staying in Oklahoma City, because we should remember these things. It's not just titles. It's other things. How many you get to, who your supporting cast is. That's what I give LeBron credit for, and he'll get more as his career goes. I think we need to remember that when we think about other players.
Well, I think also a thing we never get or look at when it comes to LeBron and his legacy is the actual expected winning percentage of the teams he's taken into the finals compared to other guys that we just put so much shine on their legacies. Like, if you look at the 538 analytics about the percentage chance that LeBron has had when he goes into a finals, it's somewhere around like 38%.
He's been an underdog a number of times.
Yes, compared to the percentage chance of Jordan's teams coming into the finals. Now, there's no way that Jordan underperformed there because he won every single one. So even though I think it was 70% chance winning when he comes into the finals, he obviously won 100%. But for LeBron at this point, has entered every final something like a 38% chance to win, and he's won 3 of them. Out of fewer than 10, you're talking about a winning percentage that far supersedes what the numbers say you should win for LeBron.
Yes. The argument against LeBron will always be, as far as the number 1 spot, will always be the 2011 finals, where he kind of self-destructed a little bit. He talked about it afterwards, that he spent 2 weeks in like seclusion. He couldn't post up J.J. Barea. Scored 17 points a game, which was 10 points below his average. I think he took 21 shots in the fourth quarters of those 6 games and only hit 7 of them. I think that unfortunately, when you start to measure things up, will come into play at some point for the number 1 spot. Look, I can make the case right now in a lot of different fashions that LeBron, and I've said this a million times on Twitter, on radio, wherever, I think LeBron is the greatest individual talent I've ever seen in my 38 years of living. I think that doesn't necessarily mean he's most accomplished. And I think when you look at the greatest of all time, you have to include accomplishments as well.
I think it's a completely fair statement. The guys I had ahead of LeBron, Jordan 6 championships, Jabbar 6 championships, Russell, as you point out, 11 championships. Here's an interesting question. How many more championships does LeBron need to offset his finals losses? He's 3-4 right now. If he's 6-4, is that better than Jordan at 6-0? In NBA finals?
It depends if he wins.
To me, it is.
It depends on his output, too, in those finals.
And assuming that there's not a repeat of some of the underperformances that we've seen in the finals. And all we see from here on out is the LeBron we saw in Game 5, 6, and 7.
I mean, 2007.
When it comes to the postseason play.
2007, he had no chance. Like, let's be honest. I mean, against the Spurs that first time. So, Yeah, really outside of 2011, that's really the only blemish, I think, like real blemish on LeBron's finals record. The other times, he was the best player on the floor.
Download and subscribe to Be Honest. All you have to do is go to the ESPN app and click on the Listen tab. On this edition, superstar comedian Kevin Hart, 4-time NBA All-Star MVP Kevin Hart. You get it on this edition of Be Honest.
Stephen A., I hope you're listening. Rockets center Dwight Howard informed the team that he is opting out of his contract and will become a free agent on July 1st. Howard, coming off a season where he averaged just under 14 points a game, his lowest since his rookie season. He was set to make $23 million a season if he stayed with the Rockets. I'm going to begin with Grammar Popo over here.
Yeah, Grammar
One
Popo.
Will Kane. Sorry if you guys missed that earlier in the show.
You should get it on the podcast. You should watch it on the replay a little later today on ESPN too, because I'm going to tell you something.
Oh gosh, shameless
Molly,
plug. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. This regarding Dwight Howard is going to be the toughest for me to muster really strong conviction. Believe it or not, if I unzip, there's not Skip Bayless under this Will Kane suit. I believe you need to get your grammar straight. I believe KD needs to stay in Oklahoma City. I believe these things 100%. This is a little tougher, but here's the deal. I think you got to give Dwight Howard max money. And here's why. It's because that's what the market demands. This is so hard because I think Dwight Howard is weak-kneed both literally and metaphorically. I think he is fragile physically, an injury waiting to happen. You don't want a 30-something-year-old center who's already shown injury history on your payroll at max dollars for 3 to 4 years. You don't want that. Also, mentally, he seems to be some kind of kryptonite inside the locker room that brings everybody down rather than raises them up. I recognize all of these things. But you ask yourself, do I want a top 5 NBA center in today's league? Which I think you have to arrive at the conclusion, even in his diminished state, even compared to who he once was, he's still top 5. He's still averaging 13. He's still rebounding like a maniac. He's still playing defense. Not the Dwight Howard of 5-6 years ago, but still a top 5. And what does this top 5 center get in the NBA? Brook Lopez, $63 million guaranteed, 21 a year. We know that Dwight would have gotten 23 this year, but it was the end of his contract. He's looking for not necessarily higher yearly base, but an overall guaranteed contract. I think that's probably what's on the table for him. So he wants to hear numbers like this: $63 million for Brook Lopez, $87 for Marc Gasol. He's not going to get that. $63 million for DeAndre Jordan. Enes Kanter, $51 million guaranteed. Greg Monroe, $33 million guaranteed. You drop down a notch, but you have to ask yourselves: is Dwight Howard worth what Enes Kanter is worth? Lower yearly average, but higher guaranteed. I think you arrive pretty quickly at, yeah, he probably is. He probably is worth what these guys have got. And if you want a top 5 NBA center, that's the cost of doing business.
Here's what Dwight needs. And he opted out of the $23 million, and I don't think he's going to get that in yearly salary. Not from a good team, at least. I think that there could be some middle-of-the-road team that be willing to give it to him, or a team desperate for a quote-unquote star that will give it to him. I just don't know if the prudent, smart, championship-type teams over the last decade or so are going to be willing to invest that in a 31-year-old center who's had back injuries, who's been an issue in the locker room. But you know what he does need? I think he needs to go to one of those places, take less money, go to a San Antonio or a Miami or someplace that has a structure. Okay, because when he was in Orlando with Stan Van Gundy, there was a structure there, and that was the best he's ever played. He was a guy, you can make the case, and I remember John Hollinger being here at the time, writing for ESPN.com Insider. He created the case that Dwight Howard should have been the 2011 MVP, not Derrick Rose, and he didn't think it was even close. And if you really look back at the numbers, you absolutely can make the case for Dwight. Now, he's not that anymore, as you pointed out, Will, but I think that somebody can get him to play the way he's supposed to play. Now, he hasn't played defense the way he's played in the last several years. He's not the Defensive Player of the Year type candidate anymore. But can a Greg Popovich get that out of him? Can a Pat Riley-Eric Spoelstra combination get that out of him? Can he be a reclamation project for one of these teams that wants to win a championship? Golden State Warriors, whatever, anybody. I'm just throwing these teams out because they have an infrastructure in place that makes me feel like they can put Dwight on the right track again.
And if you had that, you'd be willing to give him this kind of money?
Not the 20. I don't think those teams can afford to give him that.
50, 60 million guaranteed, because that's the cost of doing business.
I think that they would those teams, in my opinion, would probably have to start a salary around $15 or $16 million for, 3-4 years, whatever it is, you do the math. So yeah, he could get Enes Kanter money. I think that that's possible. Is he willing to do that, though? Is his ego going to allow him to do that? I thought what happened to him on TNT with Barkley and Kenny and Shaq and those guys, as odd and strange as the setup was, that psychology session of putting him on the couch, what those guys said to him was 100% right. It did feel a little bit like they were his shrinks or that he was in detention, but in essence, what they were saying to him was 100% spot on. So he needs to go somewhere that he needs to win a championship to validate himself. Because I think that he's going to be forgotten as a guy who was great at one point if he doesn't do that. Now, he can go chase money and go to a team that's middle of the road and maybe make them a playoff team, maybe a second-round team. But if he wants to really, truly go 180 and fix his personality issue, be a real reclamation project, he goes to one of those type of teams, takes less, and tries to win a championship, be a piece like that.
Well, we've had the discussion frequently about the market and what the market will pay. I think the conversation was probably more about Brock Osweiler at that time. Just because the cost of doing business with Dwight Howard is possibly $20 million a year doesn't mean that I want my team to do business in that market. Then the question becomes, do I think there's a bubble around Dwight Howard? Just because the market is willing to pay him this, does it mean that I want my team to do that? Does it mean that I think he's actually worth that? And my answer to that is no. I don't think if it were my team, I would want them to be signing Dwight Howard. One, I wouldn't want them to be signing Dwight Howard for max money because I don't think he's worth that value. Would I want him, as George pointed out, would I want my team, if it was one of those teams with structure, to sign him if he was willing to take less money under the assumption that he obviously wanted to revamp his game and play a role? No, because I think he's shown, at least in the last week, if you read about the conversations within Houston, that that's not really his game plan. I mean, the reason he opted out, in addition to getting a longer-term contract, is he went to Daryl Morey, the GM of the Houston Rockets, and was like, look, I'm averaging 3.7 points per game, 8.5 field goal attempts. The offense has nothing to do with me. Are we going to fix that? Are we going to make me a more integral part of the offense? When the answer was no, he opted out. That, to me, does not tell me that this is a guy who's ready for his twilight career in San Antonio to be a cog in the bigger, larger scheme.
Right, but in San Antonio, we're just using them as an example, obviously.
Right, or any team where he'd have to subjugate himself.
Yeah, but in San Antonio, he could be the third option there. I think the problem he had in Houston is that he was supposed to be the second option, and at times he was like the fifth or sixth option. I don't think he likes that. I think he wants some touches, but in San Antonio, he can get that, because at the end of the day, if they don't get Kevin Durant, and they're going to be in the Durant sweepstakes, the Spurs, I think, but if they don't, I could see them going after another veteran-type guy, because clearly Popovich has zigged when everybody's zagging, right? Like, he is decided, I'm going to go with Aldridge and Kawhi, less three-pointers. We're going to defend the three-pointer. We're going to play inside out. And Dwight would help them defensively, because LaMarcus Aldridge is clearly not a prime defender in the post or in the paint. Like, that's not what he does. Dwight can still be that guy and still get the third amount of touches. Let's say Miami is an example. Golden State would not work in that case, because there'd clearly be several other guys ahead of him. But like Miami, they've got Dwayne Wade. We don't know what Chris Bosh's future is going to be. You know, Dan Le Batard says Chris Bosh is going to play next year. I believe Dan, because he's as tied in as anyone to that organization. But we don't know if Chris Bosh is going to make it through the whole season. So he could be the third option there. So I think there are places where he can get both. He can still be part of the game plan and also take a role.
I just want to say, I think the money angle to this debate is almost incidental, right? It doesn't matter. The salary cap this year was $70 million. It's going to go up to something like $90, most expect. Almost every team is going to have massive amounts of cap room, upwards of $60 million with the Lakers, $50 million with the Mavericks. By the way, an organization that, one, I'm a fan of, and two, has consistently overpaid for sinners.
Dallas could be a place
that is a
where
real likelihood,
yes, Dallas
based upon
could be a
their
place.
trends
Yes.
and the money available.
Yeah.
But that's what you're going to pay for Dwight Howard. And so I think if you know that's what the market's going to bear, that most every team's going to have money to spend, then it's simply, do you want him on your team? And I'll make this personal. As a Mavericks fan, I think so. In the end, I think he does make you better.
Yeah, the Dallas Mavericks make sense because they're still trying to find a way to get in the playoffs and just get in the mix in the postseason there for Dirk at the end of his career. And look, Dallas, for all intents and purposes, when San Antonio won the title, they pushed them with a team that was, an average playoff team, pushed them to 7 games. So we got to remember Rick Carlisle's still an elite coach there. If Mark Cuban can put pieces there, maybe Dwight is one of those pieces, that thing could work. And again, they're just other like San Antonio is a different role, clearly. Miami, if Hassan Whiteside doesn't sign there, is maybe a little bigger role than in San Antonio, but still a role. And I think that's what he's best suited for. I think he's best suited to play a role instead of being a key cog.
Time out. So the question was, would you sign him? So you're 3 for 3 here. You all would sign him?
No,
Yeah,
I would not sign him.
Kate wouldn't. I would. Will would.
Okay.
Yes.
You go ahead, Kate. Sorry, I just wanted to be clear.
No, I think.
Defend your ridiculous position, Kate.
Well, no, because then I have to be aligned with your earlier ridiculous position.
Which was what? Which was what?
The petty grammar argument, and then the KD's diminished. I'm just saying, if all three of those are labeled ridiculous, and mine is, then I'm on your side in all of the ridiculousness.
She doesn't want to be a part of that camp.
I don't want to be a part. I don't want to be in that camp, is what I'm saying.
After a short workout with the 76ers on Tuesday, the team informed Ben Simmons that he will be the #1 pick tomorrow night. Congratulations to him, which was first reported by Cleveland.com. Simmons averaged 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists a game in his only season at LSU, but his team did not make the NCAA tournament. George, should he be the #1 pick?
Yeah, Ben Simmons should be the #1 pick. Now, I'm going to say this in the front end. I think both these guys are going to have good, long careers in this league as long as they stay healthy, because they both have NBA skill sets, just different skill sets. In Ingram's case, he is a better scorer right now, no question. Not just the shooting, which, by the way, everyone likes to highlight. On isolation plays, if you look at it, he was the best in college basketball by a long shot this season. And if you look at it historically, he's as good since Kevin Durant in those situations. I also know he looks like Kevin Durant. I don't think his game, though, is as much like Kevin Durant as everybody thinks. He does have some similarities, like 76 of his 83s were on catch and shoots and things of that sort. So it's not like he's shooting threes off the dribble all the time. Again, a really good player. I think he's a great offensive talent right now. That will translate. My question is his frame. And I know we'll say, well, Durant's frame. But I don't like to do that comparison to outliers, okay? Because Kevin Durant is an outlier. There's not a lot of guys who look like that flourished in the NBA that quickly. Like, it's just not the reality of it, okay? We've had a lot of comparisons. Like, I remember Julius Randle when he came out. People were like, oh, he's like Zach Randolph. And again, that's an outlier. There's not a lot of Zach Randolphs in the NBA. We've had a lot of comparisons to Dwayne Wade. Victor Oladipo got that, too. And again, I just don't like those comparisons. With Simmons, though, NBA body right away. Like, you look at him, that guy is chiseled, ready to play in the NBA. Better defender, better ball handler, better passer, I don't think there's any question, and better around the rim, okay? So you have all those situations, and that to me says that he translates. He also has a higher upside because his shot isn't great right now. And that's something that can be developed. People forget, Kawhi Leonard came into this league, and his shot was broken for all intents and purposes. And now he's a guy shooting basically 50% from 3. So you can do that. And when I look at Simmons, I think of a point forward. I think of Giannis Antetokounmpo right now, where Jason Kidd, kind of towards the end of the season, threw him in at point guard. He was averaging like 29 and 7 or something like that. I can see him being that, a big 6'10 type, ball handler type, Lamar Odom type, those type of guys. Even, Draymond Green is not like tall and strong, as strong as he is, but in that mold, the guy who can play a lot of different positions, play the point forward. I think that's what Simmons is. He's a playmaker at this stage. Ingram may be a little more steady early on because of the shot, but ultimately I think Simmons is the better prospect overall.
Yeah.
I would go Ingram. And I'll give you 3 quick reasons. First of all, the risk reward is greater with Ingram. ESPN Predictive Analytics puts numbers on this and says that if the likelihood of Ingram becoming an all-star in the next 5 years is simply higher than that of Simmons. And the likelihood that bust is higher for Simmons. So Simmons has a lower ceiling by this particular measurement and a higher bust ratio. That's one piece of evidence that says go Ingram. But the more compelling one is style of play. Ingram shot 40% of his shots from in the paint and 40% of his shots behind the three-point arc. Where he shot, over 40%. He's playing the modern NBA game, in the paint and on the outside. On the other hand, Simmons, 84% of his shots in the paint. That's staggering. He only took 3 threes in all of his first year in college. 84% in the paint. Now, can he develop a shot? To your point about who you can become in outliers, maybe.
Giannis, Kawhi Leonard,
is
those
Kawhi
guys,
an outlier?
Yeah.
Is him learning his shot like Kawhi an outlier? To your point, I think Ingram has the higher upside. That's the way I go. It fits the modern NBA.
We also need facilitators who are going to create a team and the passing ability that allows the guys around you who are shooting threes at a higher percentage to get those open shots. And I think that's what Simmons does. And by another metric, a 538 analysis of Simmons going into February of his NCAA career, rated him against top 5 prospects of all time. He was at the 100th percentile for assists, 90th percentile for rebounds, 75th for scoring. And now then when you talk about shooting percentage, as we've all mentioned, it dips. But when you look at where the NBA is right now and how a guy with his stature and his size and his facility with the ball and his ability to both rebound and pass and then hopefully develop a shot, to me he seems primed to be part of this new wave of NBA kind of versatility mixed with big assist.
You know, I think in the equation, team need, in the NBA, that's the lowest, right? You should never go with the highest talent, not team need. But ultimately, as we go through this, you do ask yourself that. And I think if you look at both the Sixers and the Lakers, Ingram fits a need for both of them.
Everybody needs shooting, though. Yeah, I'm with you.
And the Sixers, who have the first pick in the NBA draft, have Nerlens Noel, Joel Embiid, and Jahlil Okafor playing the 4-5. So you can't add Simmons to that and have all four.
Simmons is wildly different than those guys, though.
Simmons is going to be a 3.
Simmons is wildly different than their
He's going to be a small forward.
You think they keep all 4 of those if they...
No, they're going to trade some of them, too.
Thus reducing the value of one of those 3 guys.
Or increasing the value.
No,
if they get a pick back.
If you're trading out of need, it reduces the value.
Not necessarily out of need. They can keep them.
Somebody else might need more what you're offering, and then you get higher value back.
There's a alleged rumor right now that has Boston, who, by the way, inquired on Okafor during the trade deadline last year, that they may be interested in either of those 2 guys. So, I mean, it's possible that to create room. And again, to me, he's a 3. He's a point forward. He's not a power forward or a center.
A 3 that can't shoot.
All right, the draft, 7 Eastern on ESPN. Catch that coverage. One more topic I want to get to quickly. Speaking of trading, we asked our First Take fan. Thank you guys for weighing in. Should the Cavs trade Kevin Love? 60% say yes. Will Kane, did they get it right?
Yes, they did. That's unanimous around this table. Yes?
Yeah.
It's time. Yeah. It's time.
Well, it's a good time for a break, I think, both sides.
Yeah. It didn't work.
Where do you think he should go?
It worked.
Honestly, I think he should go to Boston. I think that makes the most sense for both teams. Like, if I were doing a fantasy trade, if I went on the ESPN.com trade machine right now, if I were Boston, I'd give them Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, and the number 3 pick. All that works as far as the money's concerned, and get your star. They're in need of a star. That's what Danny Ainge wants.
Forget, because if you're Cleveland, you can't look at next year and think, if we do the exact same thing, we're going to have the exact same result. Because so many things aligned for Cleveland to win this title. And you can't go into next year looking at it and not seeing the Warriors still as the favorites for next year. So you need to upgrade.
Yeah. Kevin Love has more value outside of Cleveland to both Cleveland and himself. He's a better player than we saw in Cleveland, and Cleveland can get more in trade value for him than what he gave them on the court in this series.
Yeah, he gets to go back to being the guy that gets touches at the elbow or in the post like he likes to get him when he was in Minnesota, and he doesn't have to play a role like he did in Cleveland.
Feels like it's a win-win regardless. For 3 wins, I'm sure for Kevin Love, too, getting somewhere where he can play more and be a more integral part of the offense would be a win for him as well.
He's already got the ring. He doesn't need to prove anything.
He's not chasing anything anymore.
He's validated at this point as a player. So
Is he the epitome of that fish you were mentioning?
He's a remora.
My 2 takeaways from the show: grammar and remora fish. That really is. That's what you guys. That's what you guys.
You're gonna watch the grammar, right, Molly?
Oh gosh.
Somebody caught you on Twitter, didn't they?
I'm just trying to be
Yes,
me.
I had a grammar mistake. I did. Touche.
George, thank you so much.
Thank
Kate,
you, Molly.
appreciate you. Will will be back here tomorrow. He will be taking on one Stephen A. Smith and John Calipari. He already said he's going to beat down Stephen A. You nervous for this?
No. Bring it on, Stephen A.
2 versus 1.
Shock.
You're ready? All right. Thank you guys so much. We will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
This weekend, Corey Seager and the Dodgers head east to face Starling Marte and the Pittsburgh Pirates.
The other way for Corey Seager. That's some kind of power.
Saturday at 6 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.